All right, so round one for the Colorado Avalanche was a division rival. Round two for the Colorado Avalanche, it's going to be another division rival in the Dallas Stars. Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche, Instagram, and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you are subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we get your opinion on everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, sir, we're a little bit later releasing this episode because we, like everybody else, we're watching Game 7 between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights, which the Dallas Stars win in Game 7. Entertaining series. And we had talked about who we prefer, and I didn't really care because it was going to be a battle no matter what. I think the only thing that for me was like, well, the home ice would be nice. Other than that, it's like you're going against two really good teams, and you're getting Dallas. So that game just ended minutes ago. What's your overall thoughts? What's your overall take so far on what this is going to be for the Avs?
I think the ultimate discussion around this series is going to be that age-old discussion around playoffs. Rust versus rest. What is this going to be? You got Dallas coming right off a Game 7, which was electric, to take down Vegas, pulling the goalie late. They're going to be right into this matchup with the Avs. The Avs have been sitting back, watching round 2 commence, like you've already seen Carolina and the Rangers drop the puck on round 2. It's already going on, and now you finally learn your opponent. I think that's going to be the conversation around everything. I'm excited to see this Avs versus Stars matchup because I think it's just going to be overall fun. With all the storylines going on with Vegas, you knew it was going to be a distraction of how they handle the books and this player, and how Vegas, when they dropped the Avs a couple years ago, the stealing of the flag and the crowd, like all those storylines would have been a distraction and it would have been kind of chippy. This Dallas, like especially for the old school hockey fans, old school Stars and Avs, this is going to be fun.
It will be. It's like I said, it's a division rival for Dallas. It's you took out the reigning Stanley Cup champs. Now you're going up against the team that won it the year before Vegas won it. So they have an opportunity to take out the last two Stanley Cup champions. So they're going to be wanting to do that. For the Avs, yeah, there's some payback that you want to have for Dallas for, what happened the last time you played them, Game 7, which, by the way, the Pete DeBoer stat is just insanity to me. For him to be 8-0 in Game 7s, that's just incredible. To be undefeated. There was somebody else. They said at the end of the game, and I didn't catch who it was, that he's tied with for Game 7 wins. But the fact that he is undefeated is just bonkers. And the fact that the Avalanche, I don't think, have won a Game 7 in the Nathan McKinnon era. If this thing goes to Game 7, that is going to be the topic of conversation. No doubt about it. No question about it. And I think a lot of people might be thinking this could go the distance. This could be a very back and forth series. Again, you have no clue to get to your rest versus rust thing. I at this point in the season, I don't buy in. You might get it in the first few minutes. You might get it in the first shift for each guy, and then it's back to business. These guys are just too seasoned, too much professionals to really let rust, air quotes, last for an entire game. When you've played 87 games so far, and plus a few more with the preseason. I don't think that's going to come into play in Game 1. But you can almost guarantee what the Avalanche are going to have to do is try to take the crowd out of it as early as possible with Dallas, because they're going to be riding high. Game 7, they just won. Now they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to travel at all. They just stay home. You got a day off. You play. It's Tuesday, right? I think right before we went live, I think they updated. Everything's going to be Tuesday. The first game is going to be Tuesday. So Avs are rested. Dallas is not. So I think it's going to be a big thing for the Avs to come out and try to knock off that little bit of rust, that first shift rust off right away, and set the tone. Set it as quick as you can to try to take that crowd out of it as early as possible.
And honestly, if you're a hockey fan, like if you're a new Colorado Avalanche fan because your team got bounced, welcome. We are glad you're here. But if you're telling me you get a playoff series with Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar versus Miro Heiskanen, and then you got Robinson, like he's really flashy. Like being in Dallas, you don't see him that much. And you get Logan Staykoven, who was a pest the last time the Avs played. Like there's an Ottinger in this resurgence. There's so many good stars on this team, pun intended, that it's going to be a fun matchup if you just enjoy hockey.
Their leading scorer is Wyatt Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Wyatt Johnson's their leading scorer right now. And the other thing that scares me, Joe Pavelski did not have a single point in that entire series against Vegas. That scares me because that's not the norm for him, and we all know what he can do against the Colorado Avalanche.
And you know what should scare you the most? Looking at the time on ice in this Game 7 for Dallas, you want to talk about even all the way across, and that's something that you're not used to when it comes to the Avalanche. And we'll get to who needs to be that guy, but that's going to play a factor on how Dallas rolls out their lines. Because if you get even production, and granted, they're the 11th leading scoring team in the playoffs right now. Dallas is not going to outscore their problems, but they're going to be a quiet, rolling pressure type thunder that the Avs have to withstand, and they have to get out in front of.
This is almost like for the Avalanche, what you had in round 1 against Winnipeg. Dallas being a better team. But they have a great goaltender. They are very well balanced, top to bottom. They roll out 4 lines. They're good defensively. So for the Avalanche, it's like, okay, like we just played this. Now I'm not saying it's going to be the same scenario and you're going to beat these guys in 5 games. I don't see that. I didn't see that happening against Winnipeg. But I think for the Avalanche, it's kind of all right. Let's go back to business. Let's go back to doing what we were doing against Winnipeg, because you're kind of getting a similar team in Dallas, but Dallas does it a little bit better. They have more offensive ability than Winnipeg does. However, it's been struggling. They've been struggling a little bit to score. Let me see for goals for per game for Dallas. They're at 2.33, which is towards the bottom. Colorado's leading with 5.6. So, but that, don't look at that and say like, oh, Dallas can't score. I'm sure Vegas has something to do with that. So, and all this whole, wanting to turn things around. And we were saying it in round 1 after game 1 of individual players, Alexander Georgiev needed to turn it around, and he did. So I think for Dallas, going from one series to the next, things that they want to turn around, you just look at that simple number of like, we got to put up more points than that, especially against an Avalanche team that can score.
And your point about the mirror image of Winnipeg somewhat that you're going to get in this round 2, the defense for Dallas, they're more offensive minded than Winnipeg. Yeah. And you hope this is one of those situations where the Avalanche are literally looking in a mirror to how they play. And you hope that this is an area that the Avs can catch Dallas trying to be more offensive on defense, and then they can take advantage of that. But the Avs have to kind of play chess against Dallas, because a lot of their moves are moves that Colorado make on a nightly basis.
So let's dive into if you're looking on YouTube, you can see what it says, like who needs to be quote unquote the guy. So before this season or series even gets started, who are those guys that need outside of the norm? We always do this outside of your normal guys. But if you want to throw those in there, feel free. We'll talk about that coming up next. First, let's hear from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, which is called the what?
Nathan McKinnon trilogy.
eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car, the MVP and bring home the win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, so game 1 of round 2 will be Tuesday night in Dallas. Talked a little bit about maybe how things we would want them to go for the Avalanche to, right off the bat. If there is any rust, which I don't expect a ton there, to knock that off as soon as possible, and kind of get back into the flow, get back into how you were handling Winnipeg, kind of set the tone for this series. And maybe looking at the big picture, who, with the matchups and things like that, who do you feel the guy or guys that need to be that title for this series against Dallas?
Easy. I'm going to give a pre-sound check to this series and quote the Wise Prophets, Metallica, No Leaf Clover. It comes to be that flashing light at the end of your tunnel is a freight train coming your way. Valeri Nichushkin.
I love it.
This is your former team. You had an incredible series against Winnipeg, and what better way to continue this and make up for last year than your former team advancing one more step. This is where you need to keep it going. You want to talk about this rust versus rest? You can get a good indicator on where the Avs are sitting when it comes to Valeri Nichushkin. If he takes a step back, this team has to collectively step forward. But if he continues with the production he had in round 1, this team is going to be sitting pretty.
I think that's a great one. Obviously, he seems to always play Dallas well, because there's a little bit extra there for him. It makes sense. Now he gets a crack at them in the playoffs. You better believe he is wanting to single-handedly send them home. So he's a big part of this team anyway. So he needs to keep doing that role and playing that role, because it's needed. It's obviously needed. So I think, there's no secrets here when it comes to asking this question. There's no guy that especially after round 1, you can't really, with the exception of Mikko Rantanen, who we talked about, like, hey, he wasn't playing horrible, but it's like, dude, it's the playoffs. Can we step it up a little bit? And he did. He did in game 5 with 3-point game, 2 goals. You hope that continues over. Outside of that, and outside of Georgiev's game 1, there's nothing really there where you're massively concerned going into round 2. You want all of those guys to keep playing the way that they're playing. And the way the Avalanche play is how they play. They are not going to change their style going into Dallas. It's going to be, it's a speed game. You want the defense to continue to play that the way that they've played, because that has been up and down all season long. So as a unit, who needs to be the guys is the defense, clearly. And that's included with Georgiev. He needs to keep doing what he's got to ride that wave that he has been on after game 1. That, without a doubt, I mean, and that goes for, you can say that about every goalie that's left in the playoffs, right? They need to stand up. But for the Avs, it's continue doing what you're doing. Nichushkin, definitely. Arturi Lehkonen, he was a stud in round 1. Cale Makar was just flying everywhere in round 1. Depth, you need all of that to continue. So the entire fourth line, keep that going. I mean, yeah, I can pull out individual guys in that, and I think Nichushkin is the best one for multiple reasons. And if I'm gonna maybe rank them, I would say like, yeah, Nichushkin would be the number one guy, and then Georgiev has to be that guy, and then hey, Nathan McKinnon, take it over.
Yep.
Take it over and be that Hart candidate, which we haven't had announced yet, but we're assuming he's going to be in that everyone has seen you be this year, because that's maybe one thing. If you want to go back to the first round, that didn't happen. Okay, we can add that to the few things that didn't happen for the Avalanche, and Nathan McKinnon just taking over a game. He didn't need to. There, everything else kind of fell in line where you didn't have to rely on him so much, but he wants to do that. That's where he excels. So maybe you see him pick it up a little bit more and put the team on his back that you didn't see a ton of in round one.
And I agree wholeheartedly with your defensive. They need to be all that guy as a collective unit. They need to make this series frustrating for Dallas because they cannot score at the same level that Colorado can. And if you are making their shots difficult to even register or let alone get to Georgiev, and knowing what you can do when it comes to scoring, they need to make it frustrating because they know if this does go the distance and go 7, Kiviranta's on our side now.
I was going to bring him up. He's another one, but he didn't play the last. The rest could have been great for him.
Yeah.
You'd have to think he's ready to go with this time that they've had off. He didn't play I think it was the last 2 games or 3. I think it was the last 2 games against Winnipeg. He wasn't there. He's another one and he was playing well in those first 3 games. And we talked about it here. Like, so yeah, he's another one who might look for a little bit of payback on the Dallas side. So hopefully he's there. There was another one. Oh, the physicality. So you got that in round 1, and you had said it after that series wrapped up with Winnipeg, that it was a good, hard fought and gentlemanly.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really get outside of that scrum at the end of the game that just got ugly when the clock struck 0. Outside of that, it was a well-mannered game, and the hits were not ugly. They weren't, come from behind like hits that nobody saw coming. Like, it was very well played and hard fought game. I'm not saying Dallas doesn't do that, but they have a couple guys on their team that like to take shots. Do I want to call them cheap shots? We'll see if they happen. But they do that. So, but it is the playoffs, and sometimes, you don't really see it a ton in the playoffs because guys don't want to hurt their team. They don't want to hurt the team and take a stupid penalty. So we'll see though. But I think you might not get those quote unquote cheap shot hits, but you're going to have another round of a physical battle against Dallas. It's just who they are.
And you have to understand the Avs are sitting 3rd in the playoffs at the power play. The Stars are 5th. And then you don't want to give up those opportunities. And again, when you can't score at the level that Colorado does, you do not want to give up any opportunities. And you expect this to be a little bit cleaner, but then you watch on the other half of the bracket, the hit that D'Angelo made, you see how round 2 is going to be, and you see how hyped up Dallas is going to be after defeating one defending Stanley Cup champion. How much emotion and momentum do they have? Does that lead into things, especially if the Avs are making the game frustrating? Because Cale Makar is going to have to stand up in this game. He's going to have to be the leader. And if they're making shots hard to come by and everything frustrating, and the Avs, when you turn around, they're the ones up 2-3 goals, that's when things get chippy. And how the Avs can circumvent that is going to be key. You don't want to fall into their trap, but you don't want that to derail you either. And you locked up. So, and I know that comment is usually, just the style of Jamie Benn and just the Dallas Stars and how they get momentum. But you just hope the Avs don't fall into that trap because that's what Dallas wants.
It is. You're right. Yeah, I think Dallas tries to get under your skin. And for some teams it works. You just got to hope for the Avalanche they don't fall into it. And Jamie Benn is the guy that's in my head when I'm thinking about things that Dallas can do to get under your skin. So absolutely right. All right. What do we think? We'll do some pre-series predictions from us and our subtext crew. I don't know if they really gave us the full predictions, but they're weighing in on the Stars' victory. So we'll discuss that coming up next. All right, time out for a second. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go, something that we have been talking about for the past couple weeks. And if you're saying you've already talked about that, that only makes me believe that you have not played the game, because if you have played it, you'd be saying like, yes, talk about it more, because this game is incredible. Kyle and I are addicted to it. I saw that you stole from me again earlier today.
Yep.
What gives? I thought we were buds.
I stole and bankrupted you, and I smiled and put my phone in my pocket.
And I loaded up the game, and my hundreds of millions of dollars were down to like tens of thousands, and I was like, Shaggy Von Doom. It was my Newman moment, but it was Shaggy. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. Or if you're like Shaggy, you take all my money. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play and the App Store. It's absolutely addicting. I hope you've been playing it to pass the time with no Avalanche hockey. Go get it. Incredible game. Like Wayne Campbell says, game on. All right, let's get to some predictions here. And I want to say this too. Remember I said, I think it was like last week, if there's a game going, if I'm going in to watch a game that I don't really have any rooting interest for, as the game goes on, I find myself rooting for a team just based on what I'm watching. I did find myself a little bit not when this happens, I usually just go, okay, I'm rooting for this team and go full bore for that team. I did find myself leaning towards the Dallas side. And that just shows the hatred I have towards Vegas. But I didn't go like to the full extent of Dallas, because there was still a little bit of me that wanted to be the team that took them down. But hey, Dallas did it. The entire hockey community is applauding you. And because there were moments when Vegas had an opportunity to score, and either Ottinger made the save or they missed a shot. And a little part of me was like, all right, good. They didn't score it.
I was the exact same. I have friends that work for like the Dallas Stars, and in that organization, like I kind of respect them. And then when they won, I was like, well, good for you. And I start clapping, and then I see Zadorov and Ryan Graves standing there, not moving. And it's game 7 all over again. Oh yeah, I don't like these guys.
So now we got them, and now it's back to all right. Now we're against each other. But how's our subtext people feel? We have Easton says, okay, we got Dallas, did pretty good against them this year, but Winnipeg did well against us, and we see how that ended. So he's right. I mean, we didn't bring up the regular season at all in this episode when it came to Dallas, because the Avs did well against Dallas, but we can't play that game if we're doing the Winnipeg thing where the Avalanche looked terrible and then they went out and kind of stuck it to them in the postseason.
Yeah, that's terrible. Greater than, less than math. It's an impossible equation.
Yeah. Joe says, I think the Avs get through Dallas in 6. It'll be a tough second round, but if the team can get Dallas to play their game, the Avs will walk all over them. Also, 8 for 8 on my first round bracket. So, hey, good for you, Joe.
Super Joe.
Yeah, man. So, and finally, Amy says, I didn't really have a preference between these opponents. I think it'll be tough, but I'm optimistic. And she also says Avs in 6. So what do you think? Is this going to be a knockout, drag them out series and it goes the distance? Or can the Avalanche continue their good play, score a lot of goals, play some good defense, get some good goaltending, and maybe it's a little bit of a repeat of round 1? It could go either way.
Well, see, to Joe and Amy's point, and on the heels of May the 4th that we didn't get to celebrate on the show, I have a bad feeling about this.
About the
There's
series or just game one?
about the series.
Mhm.
Game one, it's going to be a tone setter for sure. But I have a feeling it doesn't matter who's up, who's down. Once we start dancing around games 3, 4, and 5, we're going to start getting chippy in ways that the Winnipeg series did not happen. And we talked about this Avs team top to bottom, how great they look and the health. I have a feeling that it's going to be one of those that someone's going to go down, and how teams respond is going to be the key. It's not who's setting the tone, it's how people are responding to tone setting moments. And I feel like that's going to be what carries us through. I do see it going around 6 games, if not 7, but I feel it's going to be a complete opposite of the Winnipeg series.
I had a bad feeling about round one.
Hmm.
To be totally honest with you, I did. Did I think the Avalanche could win it? Yeah, but I nobody saw that coming. And I think after game one, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a tough series," and then things just turned. Um, and maybe it's just feeling good about how they've been playing, and I know I shouldn't do that based on how this season went for the Avalanche, but I'm trying to remove the regular season and have that be it, have that be the regular season, and have the postseason be the new season. I'm trying to get there because the new season, the Avalanche have looked good so far. So maybe, hopefully, how many times during the regular season, guys, did we say like, yeah, maybe they're over that up and down and up and down, and maybe it's they needed to get the postseason to do that because I didn't, man. I thought that Winnipeg series was just gonna they were gonna have to grind to get out of that series, and that turned out to not be the case. Right now, I'm feeling like they can carry that over because they have to. They know that they have to. And now you're getting another opponent who's tops in your conference. So why are you going to have a letdown? There's no letdowns in the postseason. So I was didn't have a good feeling about round one. I have a good feeling about round two. I have a good feeling about how they can play. I think maybe that was my concern with round one was they just were not playing good hockey leading into that. They're playing good hockey leading into round two. So I have a good feeling about how they can play against Dallas. Do I think it's going to be a repeat of round one? I don't. I've said I've gone on record saying like from here on out, every prediction of mine is a game 7 prediction. I'm done with the 5-6 games. Like this is too tough of a grind to just think that you can just roll over teams. So I think this goes 7 games. I do. I think it goes 7 games. Because I feel good about how the Avalanche are playing, I'll pick them to win in 7. But how I felt about round one and it not being easy, I think this one definitely will not be easy.
And I'm speaking to the Avs. I hope you guys are listening right now. Please don't take a step back. Don't have a rust game. Don't be a letdown because that every letdown and step back means more of that god awful goal song. And Dallas is the only team that's going to make me hate Pantera and the Abbott brothers. But my God, if I have to hear that for 7 games, I will look like Chris Maselli by the end of this by this series.
So we'll see where it goes. It's short time, but we might be having a crossover Lockdown Stars. So I don't know yet. We got to set that up potentially. It's going to be a quick turnaround. So that might be tomorrow's episode. If not, we'll still have some more stuff to talk about heading into this series. So that's going to wrap it up for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Lockdown Avalanche podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.